So I personally left the tour. People think I got fired, I got kicked off. I voluntarily left.
You were a part of one of the biggest tours. I want to say the biggest tour in history, comedy tour.
Kings of Comedy was the biggest comedy tour in history with a group of comedians. Well, no, I take that back. Maybe second, because you gotta give Kevin Hart his just due, and the Plastic Cup Boys, Naeem, Spank, and Joey Wells. You know that they did stadiums, like football stadiums. So I think that's the only probably comedy tour that surpassed the Kings of Comedy. And you know you have the Get Down going around to the Get Down comedy tour with George Lopez, Cedric Entertainer, Dale Hughley, and rest in peace Charlie Murphy, and Eddie Griffin. So, but yeah, I mean, that tour was incredible. And the thing about Kings of Comedy tour, I was the original host. I was doing comedy 5 years at that time, so I consider myself the prince of the Kings of Comedy tour, because no way did my career even match what those guys were doing. At the time, it was just me, Cedric, Bernie, and Steve. And I was pegged as the host because I got along with everybody. Like, I did the hottest comedy room in the country, Fat Tuesdays, a comedy store. I think Walter Latham, who created it, trusted me to be a good host, because it's not about just being funny. There's thousands of other funny cats who could have had my spot. I'm just going to be honest. But he pegged me because of the energy, and, you know, God put my name on that. And I learned so much from that tour. I was a comic when I started that tour. And we would do 52 dates, man. And I would see those guys go on stage and kill every night. And I wanted to get like that. I had jokes, but I didn't have an act. So I personally left the tour. People think I got fired, I got kicked off. I voluntarily left. If you look at, back then, Tavis Smiley had a show on BET called BET Tonight. And we had an interview on there with me, Cedric, and Steve, and Bernie called in from Chicago, and I announced on that show I was leaving the tour. And they were like, what?
What year was that?
This was 1998.
Okay.
I left the tour for a few reasons. One, I had never really played the club circuit like I do now, the Improvs and Funny Bones. I wasn't like, so I wanted to leave and get an act. And another thing was I ended up getting a TV show as well, you know. I was making probably like $3,000 a week back then. TV show was paying me $30,000 a week. But at the time, I didn't have the credits to be mentioning those names at that time with Cedric, Bernie, Steve. So I ended up leaving the tour, and they ended up replacing me with Dale Hughley, which was smart because Dale Hughley was on ABC with the Hughleys. So he had that other audience coming in with him along with his black audience. It was a perfect mix. Plus, he was doing the same type of numbers on the road as Bernie said and Steve were. I wasn't. So, I voluntarily left that tour. But what happened was, and I said this on the Steve Harvey show where we had the Kings of Comedy reunion. Shout out to Steve for having me on that, because I wasn't a part of that show. And Steve requested, like, we can't do this show without Guy. He was the original host. And he always gave me love and always introduced me as that. And I always respect Steve for that, man. That was big, huge. I cried, actually, to be honest. I was honored. But, you know, I was a comic when I started that tour. And I learned the difference between a comic and a comedian. And I heard Steve Harvey say that one time, and I didn't understand it. But a comic says funny things, and a comedian makes things funny. Comic is someone you don't really know. They tell jokes, but you don't know who they are. A comedian lets you into his or her life, and they get in there, and you know who they are. You become a part of them, like you know who they are. And that's what I wanted to become. I had jokes, but I would never, at that time I wasn't opening up about, you know, my pain.